Aloha and welcome to this episode of HNN Overtime, the Hawaii News Now sports podcast. I am one half of your host, Kyle Chinen, joined by, as always, Davis Pitner.
The other half.
The other half, the better half, some would say.
I would say the better half.
I mean, yeah. He is in the nicer shirt today.
I am in a nicer shirt.
Look at him.
Shirt.
He is styling today.
Appreciate
He is looking fly, my friend. And we have a fly.
Stop that, Kyle.
We have a fly episode 2 coming up.
We do. We have one of our own on this episode.
I know.
Guys.
We pulled from in-house today.
Yeah, we did. And I think it's a good person to pull from.
Mm-hmm.
You might know him from our 4 o'clock show.
Yep, first
and
4.
occasionally on This Is Now.
Yep.
Mark Carpenter.
Mark Carpenter.
The one and
hold
only.
on. The Emmy Award-winning
Sorry, yeah,
Mark
Emmy
Carpenter.
Award-winning Mark
Emmy
Carpenter.
Award-winning Mark Carpenter of First of 4 fame. But he is much more than that, as we find out.
He is much more. Absolutely. You know, he was big-time sports reporter.
Right.
California.
And then
Covered some pretty cool teams.
Especially, it's
one
pretty...
would say one of the best NBA
Alrighty,
teams
man. We
in
get
the
it.
country.
Let's remind our audience that Davis Pitner is a Golden State Warriors fan to the core.
Represent.
The comments made by Mr. Pitner does not reflect others on this program, nor do they reflect the views of the rest of our company. No, I'm kidding. But, you know, it was cool. It was fun to talk with Mark. You know, he was there when, you know, the Golden State Warriors were on an absolute tear in the NBA, you know, in 2016 and beyond. We talk about a little bit of his background and how he got into sports here in Hawaii before making the switch to the Bay Area. But yeah,
some people that he interviewed too, a lot of big names,
people.
and you know, kind of just the start of his career, what made him successful, and then his journey back to Hawaii.
Right.
I thought overall it was just really cool to kind of, you know, see what Mark Carpenter is all about.
Yeah,
see what all happens with him.
I think for some of our newer viewers or anything that just kind of know him from First at 4, you know, might not know that he was here back in the early 2000s as a sportscaster before going to the Bay Area and coming
Intern
back.
first,
Intern,
and then
yeah.
sports.
I mean, we're all 3 of us were products of the internship route for this company, but it was super fun, and you know, it's always nice to catch up with some coworkers. You know, we're always running around and being busy, you yourself included. You know, today was a busy day for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you know, just being able to sit down, talk story with them, talk story with Mark. It was fun.
It was fun. So you know what, Kyle?
Yeah.
Let's take us to the interview.
Yes, sir. All right, everyone. We are joined by our very own Mark Carpenter, co-anchor for First at 4 here on Hawaii News Now.
Also, the tallest person in the newsroom.
Yes. Oh, yes.
What do you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean...
I was thinking Kiahi, but yeah.
Yeah, they're kind of close.
Yeah, maybe I'll go stand by Kiahi's desk today and we can...
we can settle it.
we can settle this, exactly.
No, it is so cool having you here, Mark.
Oh, thank you for
really
having
appreciate you being on here, you know, as a sports legend,
Sports
both here
alumni.
and sports
Yeah.
alum, both here and
I
on the
think
main
viewers
line.
of your program may be wondering, what would I even be doing on a sports podcast? What can I add? So
No, I think people will be... I mean, I guess for the newer viewers that just know you, I guess, from First at 4... might not have known your background a little bit.
They don't know the backstory.
They don't know the backstory.
That's what we're here for.
We're here
Mark.
for the real Mark Carpenter.
Who is the real Mark
oh,
Carpenter?
gosh.
Turns into Other Side of Paradise, the investigative
there we go,
podcast.
there
But
we
no,
go.
we're here to talk about sports. Obviously, you have a rich background in sports. Just kind of talk about, you know, what got you into the business and into sports journalism from the jump.
Yeah, well, I think I have a similar trajectory with a lot of sports media people, right? So I mean, my love of sports started from a very young age. I was always fascinated by it. I knew pretty early on that I was never going to be an all-star athlete or anything like that. So I'm like, okay, well, I enjoy writing. I enjoy telling stories. And so when I was in high school, I joined the school newspaper. I had a column. I parlayed that into, when I went to Hawaii Pacific University, I had a column there as well. And then that's when I started my internship here at Hawaii News Now during my first go around here. So that was in, 2010. I was an SPJ intern. I always told myself that when I'm going to do an internship, I'm going to learn as many things as possible. So, shooting, writing, editing. And I was always kind of lurking around the sports desk.
Yeah.
Chris Tanaka and Mike Cherry were there at the
Right.
time.
Oh,
So I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
okay, is there like anything I can go out on? Is there any story or is something you need shot, something you need transcribed? Just anything, kind of just hanging around, right? And then it was just just kind of a crazy whirlwind where, as an intern, I joined the staff, and then I was working in news, and then I was doing weekend assignment editor. An opportunity opened up where I was helping out more in sports.
Right.
I was kind of, taping stand-ups on the side and trying to put my own little tape together. You know how that goes, right?
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
There's just, okay, here, we're at a UH football practice. Can I, record something for 10 to 15 seconds just so I have me on camera talking about
right.
this,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I need
yeah.
visual proof that I was here. And so, that turned into taping sportscasts. And so I got on air and then spent a few years on air covering a variety of UH football teams. I was here during Norm Chow, Gib Arnold for UH basketball.
Yeah.
And, my gosh, a ton of high school sports, what was
Right,
happening
right.
with Marcus
Yeah.
Mariota. And then my wife and I, we moved to the Bay Area in 2015, August of 2015. Just a crazy whirlwind of sports over there. I mean, we
Oh, I'm
jumped.
sure you have
oh,
so
yeah.
many things going on over
Yeah.
there.
Oh, I mean,
Like the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah, we'll get into the Warriors talk. I mean, but speaking about that, when we moved to the Bay Area,
Right.
so you go from Hawaii where we're covering UH football, and it is busy year round here, and then that is just amplified even more when you get to the Bay Area.
Sure.
I mean, right when we moved up there, that was the thick of the Warriors' 73-win season.
Right.
That was when the Super Bowl was going to be in the Bay Area, Super Bowl 50
Right.
at Levi Stadium.
Yeah.
And then it was just, year after year, and you really get to see an up-close look at how the sports calendar really unfolds.
Right.
So, yeah, that was quite a time.
What is it like covering those events? Because, we're so, close to just covering UH,
Yeah.
events. And, it's a big thing here in Hawaii.
Absolutely.
But like you were saying, in California, it's like 10 times amplified over there because you have so much going on. What is it like covering all those different sports?
Well,
and
yeah,
teams?
it really is multitasking. And then you come to a point where you're trying to prioritize, okay, well, what are we going to do here? We got 49ers mini camp starting up. Okay,
Right,
are we gonna
right.
we need to get some of this, but at the same time, we have the Warriors playoff game. So when we were living in the Bay Area, we covered, oh my gosh, I covered 4 NBA finals. So 2016 to 2019, that was when the Warriors just kept going,
Yeah.
right? They went to 5 straight, but we were there for 4.
Right.
Yep.
And just when you're covering those events, you really see just how much media and how much attention that these teams generate.
Yeah.
And it is just a surreal scene. You're talking about media coming from all over the country, all around the world. Specifically during the 2016 run when the Warriors were going for back-to-back titles, they had the 73 wins.
Absolutely.
Steph Curry was in his 2nd straight MVP season. You just start to see how, for example, when you're at practice, when you go there during a regular season November game, okay, you'll have all the local media there and you'll have some national writers. So you're talking about, 10 people at a time. But as the season goes on, as the win streak is building up, as the playoffs are approaching, then you just are in a crowded mass every single time. No, seriously, you'd have to go to practice 2.5 hours early just so you would ensure a spot in line in front of the players.
So it was a constant fight. What do you say? To just get room to even space anywhere.
No,
to get this.
absolutely. I mean, you're really planning your day around it.
Yeah.
And so that's how it was with the Warriors. That's how it is. I mean, on a nonstop basis in the NFL.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you're back in the finals, it really is it is a different animal.
I mean, you talk about like just having the basically plan your day around that. You mentioned to us a little bit off camera is just the difference between like how much access you get, say in like the NBA and the NFL. Talk about just those interactions with these players, with these coaches, these superstar athletes.
You reach a certain point where you need to take a step back and just realize like what kind of team and what kind of access you do have. And I will say this, that the NFL and the NBA in terms of access, I would say it's like day and night. The NFL is very controlled and very regulated, and I understand why. All right, there are a lot of I think football in general, football coaches in general, and just it's just you have 1 to 2 availabilities per week. You have limited time with the players, and then you get to Sunday. That's it. That's your job. On to next week. In the NBA, what was so surprising to me when I first started there was how much access you did have, and some would even say there's almost too much access because no, seriously, because I mean there would be times where you go and cover a morning Warriors practice. Okay, let's say the Warriors have a game day. Okay, you go and cover the morning shoot around at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
they have a game that night. They have another press conference with the head coach about an hour and a half before game time, and then you have the game, and then you have more access afterwards. And so when and so that allows an opportunity, and you understand why. Then you really get an up close look as to how you see pieces like how ESPN writers, how people with Sports Illustrated and Yahoo, how you're able to get those in-depth pieces. That's because you have an opportunity to cultivate relationships.
Right.
And so you talk about some beat writers that are there at all those times.
Right.
That is an opportunity to get FaceTime with players and talk with the coaches. It is not even about getting a story. It's just a talk story.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to get a headline out of you here. I just want to talk. And so players remember that. Coaches remember that. And so when you're there constantly, when you're traveling with the team, the team really picks up on that.
Kyle and I went to the Raiders game over in Vegas, and that was such a cool experience for us to be on the field, to be by those huge athletes that were significantly taller than us.
It's crazy up close,
It's crazy.
Right.
No, it's a whole nother thing. I'm like looking up, I'm like, oh my God.
We
How are you built this way?
That's why we played college ball at small schools. This is the difference.
This is the reason why. What would you say is one of your favorite moments of your kind of career over in California? What do you say? Like a particular event that you went to, a game? What would you say is your favorite?
Well, so I would say 2 that stick out. So one just is for personal reasons was Super Bowl 50 because I'm a huge Denver Broncos fan. And so when I saw that it was most likely going to be Peyton Manning's last year,
right.
My wife and I, we traveled to Denver the weekend or the 2 weeks before for the AFC title game against the Patriots, which they won.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, wait, like they win the AFC title game and they're going to be going to play a Super Bowl where we live. And so just to be able to see that, I have to admit it was extremely difficult to contain myself because when I'm actually seeing the game unfold and you're sitting, you know how it is, right? When you're sitting next to media, can't be cheering in the press box.
Right.
And so you're just sitting there and then you see like a strip sack.
Yeah.
And you see Von Miller get another sack. You're like, okay, all right. So you really have
play
to
cool.
Exactly. You've been there before.
Yeah.
But inside you're just completely freaking out. But then the other one was Game 7, 2016 finals between the Warriors and Cavs. This is when the Warriors had a 3-1 lead. I had gone to Cleveland for Game 6 because the indication was that, our station said, okay, well, they're up 3-1.
Right.
Game 6 back in Cleveland. All right, let's see if they can close it out. And so our coverage plan was that the Warriors were going to be winning that and they're going to be coming home with the title. Cavs forced Game 7 back in the Bay Area. All right, the Warriors are going to be playing in Oracle Arena back in Oakland before they had the Chase Center. There's no way they lose this game. This is the team that set the record for the most wins. There's no way they lose this. And then to see how that game transpired, to see LeBron's block on Iguodala, to see Kyrie Irving's shot, and just to hear the entire crowd just kind of, one of the things about being at these events is that you're really able to get a feel for how the crowd is sensing everything. And it was such a high charged event. It was something it was very palpable. You could feel the tension in the room. And, the Cavs go on to win. And that was a crazy memory because, that was you think back about just the ripple effects of everything.
Yeah.
That was a game, that was a series that changed the entire trajectory of the NBA. The Warriors lose that game. The next month, they get Kevin Durant. For the next
Right.
None of us Warriors fans were ever expecting that. I didn't think Durant was ever going to come to us at all. And no one thought that. No one really knew where he was going to go.
Well, exactly. Well, especially because you think about the series against OKC that they just had, where it's like there's all the talk about that. The time period was there's no way Durant goes to the Warriors. I can see Durant leaving, but not to the Warriors, not to this team.
Yeah.
And so, that just sent shockwaves through the league because, all right, so he signs with them in July of 2016, and then the rest is history. And you just see kind of how all the dominoes transpired throughout. And it just really took the league to a whole different level because it just turned into, all right, well, how can we stack our teams now?
Right. I mean, you see it now. It's
absolutely
like
one thing that
speaking of KD, with the Nets and it's like it's crazy.
Well, because it turned into this whole big chess match, and then all of a sudden it was all like the whole league is planning around how can they beat the Warriors. Teams restructured their entire rosters because of that move.
Feels good as Warriors fans,
right? I mean, because you're in the middle of it, right? And you're just thinking like, okay, well, I mean, you think back to those Rockets teams. Right?
Yeah.
Where it was, James Harden and Chris Paul, who got close.
Right.
But it was all like, okay, at the end of the day, I mean, just the Warriors were just too loaded.
It is crazy, the concept of these building super teams and bringing all these stars together. Like at that point where we had Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green.
Right.
And it's just crazy how it's kind of shifted over the years where these teams are trying to bring in, as many big names as they can get and hopefully to win.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times it's not even about that. You look at the Warriors and, we didn't need Kevin Durant. We proved that over the season. That was a lot of the things that are like, oh, you guys won because you had Kevin Durant. And we're like, it's kind of that way of, proving that sometimes you don't need these guys.
Yeah. Didn't Draymond Green say that in like one of the more recent pressers, like after maybe game 1 or game 2 of the finals? He's like, we didn't need KD to win,
Oh yeah,
and their offense started with Steph.
Draymond is firmly entrenched and has been just in the position of like we never needed him in the first place. Okay, and that we saw that, just kind of see that relationship and just the entire roller coaster of that. Just you think back to that game, the regular season game against the Clippers a few years ago when Durant was still there. That's kind of what triggered the exit because there was all this talk that, all right, there's no way Durant's going to be staying long term. Then they had the flip out. Right. Just in front of everybody. Then you saw the drama. You saw Draymond shouting at him, "We won before you. We never needed you." But I mean,
it's the most awkward moment just watching.
Right, exactly. But then you just see how all the chess pieces move after that. I mean, Kawhi Leonard going to Toronto, Kawhi Leonard going to the Clippers after that. LeBron constantly trying to restructure his roster based off of what the Warriors did. And so to be in the epicenter of that was just remarkable.
Now, I do want to ask, as a Warriors fan, one of the biggest regrets that I kind of had was experiencing Oracle because, it's known for, the fans, but just kind of how it's built, too, the shape of it. Everyone's voices kind of echo throughout the whole entire building. It bugs other teams, playing in there. It's distracting, reporting there. What was that like for you?
Oh my gosh, it was a complete mess. I mean, no, just because, I would say at the base level, when you're reporting there, you never knew if you were going to get a reliable live shot. Nowadays, in just how, media and how technology has developed, right? Live shots are determined by cell phone reception.
Right.
And so we always knew because Oracle would always be so crowded. We always knew our best window for live shots was, 2.5 hours before the game, when the doors aren't even open yet, and you just have some guys shooting around here and there because nobody is in there. But then I always remember when we'd be doing live reports, and it was always during the Steph Curry shoot-around. You watch national coverage now, every time Steph Curry is out there warming up, cameras are just locked in on him, shooting from half court, just going through his entire pregame routine. But every time we do a live report there, you always risk that either I would be super glitchy, or we just lose the shot entirely.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so that was crazy. And to just be in the middle of, when you're in the press area, you are right in there. You're in a row right next to the stands. And so you're really, and so you're really able to see, when Oracle was still hosting the Warriors games, you're really able to see and feel the all the emotions of the crowd.
So, Mark, I had one last question for you about your time reporting for these, major sports teams over there. Were there, we talked to Jim Mendoza, obviously, former sports reporter himself, and he was talking about some really cool guys he was able to interview. Dick Butkus was one of them. Magic was another one of them. Did you interview any people like that?
Oh, gosh. I think back to before the start of the 2016 season, because the Warriors were defending champions. And so, when you just have these teams drawing so much attention, it draws all the national attention. I will the thing that stands out is just before the Warriors season started, TNT had a press event beforehand, just kind of talking about the upcoming season and their expectations. And so they brought the entire Inside the NBA crew. So it was Ernie Johnson, Charles Barkley, Shaq was there.
Wow.
And then afterwards, you were able to have like a one-on-one interview with them.
Wow.
Oh,
really?
Oh, my gosh. That really was just a phenomenal experience because, to talk with Charles Barkley, what you see on TV is just how he is when you're doing interviews with him, because he's just so relaxed and he is at this stage of his career where you see it. He'll just say anything and everything.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
he was open about, even though he was in the Bay Area, he was open about, well, I don't think they're going to win the title. I don't think they're the best team. And then just talking with Shaq and Ernie Johnson is one of the nicest and most genuine people to talk with, and so that really was a fun time.
Jeez, that's a bucket list.
And then
Sounds
also,
like a bucket
and the other
list
one
thing.
is, when he was first hired, I had an opportunity to have a sit-down interview with John Lynch, 49ers general manager. And he seems on TV like a really genuine and sincere guy, and he is just like that when you're talking with him. Yeah, really, really cool guy, and one of those guys where shake your hand, look you in the eye, and you don't feel like you're getting the runaround. And so it was real cool to talk with him.
All right, we just kind of went down memory lane about your time covering some finals. The 2022 finals are going on right now with none other than the Golden State Warriors.
Let's go!
They're back.
All of a sudden, all these Warriors fans in Hawaii.
I know.
What are you talking about?
All of a sudden, I see a Steph Curry jersey on your desk.
Yeah.
All of a sudden.
Oh, absolutely. I should have been wearing it now. I should probably go get it.
There's also another team in the finals, Davis, before you rudely cut them off. The Boston Celtics are in the finals as well.
Another vocal fan base.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
But yeah, just kind of your thoughts of, you've covered this team for a while and, they've had their struggles the last couple of years. Reminding
Obviously
Davis
a
of
major
that.
Golden State Warrior fan right here.
Yeah.
Well, the thing that stands out to me is it was so surprising that going into these playoffs, and also too, really coming out of the All-Star break, why still so many people didn't have the Warriors in this spot already? Mm-hmm. Why all of a sudden Phoenix was just kind of anointed as the best team, and Phoenix was the one that's going to be making a run.
Right.
I always thought that was so surprising because it's obvious, okay? Klay Thompson was going to come back.
Yeah.
This team was going to be intact again.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
They had all this time to work through and find guys that can be contributors, whether that was going to be Andrew Wiggins. Jordan Poole has made an enormous leap.
Oh, my God.
Gary Payton's son.
Yeah.
Just a lockdown defender. And so it was puzzling to me when you listen to all this national commentary that the Warriors weren't in this spot. And, of course, Boston, too, they have just a remarkable story as well. The fact that, going into the All-Star break, coming out of Christmas, they've just been on this tear.
Yeah.
And that is a defense that is suffocating. And it's a fascinating matchup from what we've seen so far.
Going into game one, that Warriors were going to win in 5. After game 1, though, I see this going to 7.
Yeah.
I think this will go to this.
I think
as well.
the intensity of both of these teams, which they're playing at, is unreal right now. Yeah, I mean, both of them are just going at it. And, usually the Warriors, when we go on the road, we at least win 1. Right. So I'm confident that we can win 1. I really don't think we're going to win the next 2 over in Boston.
Yeah.
I really think it's going to come down to 7.
Yeah, and I think defense is also going to be the difference. One thing about the Warriors' trajectory and all of this, and you look at the teams that each team has played, to get to this point. Golden State went through Denver without Jamal Murray. They went through Memphis that had Ja Morant temporarily, and he was out for the rest of the series. And then a Dallas team that, I don't know. Many feel that Dallas shouldn't have even been there in the first place.
Yeah.
And so this is a test right now where they're facing a deep Boston team that has a lot of length and could present a lot of different matchup difficulties. At the same token, Boston's path to the finals has been amazing. The fact that they get through Miami, they beat them in Miami, Giannis, and they played the Nets. But the thing about Boston is they haven't seen a shooting team like the Warriors. And there are times where we've seen this so many times over the years, where you play a Warriors team, and even if no lead is ever safe against them. And there are times where it just looks overwhelming, and teams just can't do anything about it. I had the same feeling watching Game 1, that when the Warriors went on their run in the third quarter, I was like, okay, well, that's Powell. There's no way the Boston's coming back.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, gosh, it's just I think a big thing, too, is just how physical it's going to be allowed to get. Because if Draymond Green is allowed to get an early technical foul and do whatever he wants for the rest of the game. Okay, well, that's going to set the tone. But if they go to Boston, he gets a tech and he's still doing that. I don't know. I mean, would he get ejected?
I honestly don't know.
There's so many different just sub-layers.
Every time I see him foul and then he starts arguing with the ref, I'm like, oh, God, Draymond, come on, man. Like, don't do that. Just step away.
Right. But there's precedent for that, where it's are the finals referees really going to make a decision to eject Draymond Green from a finals game? Because they saw the long-term ramifications of something like that. When you think about the 3-1 series against Cleveland, and he gets suspended for Game 5. That's when we can go through all.
We can go through all of them, right?
Right.
No, I mean, it's going to be a tough one for the Warriors. That's what I'm looking at. And, the Celtics, they really have built up this team to get to this point.
Right.
This has been a lot of cool insight.
Yeah.
Talking to you, Mark.
Thank you for having me.
We appreciate it.
Started your career, your time in California, your amazing coverage on a fantastic NBA team, and that is probably gonna win. But
now he's back home.
Now you're back home.
Good to be back home.
Covering UH. Was it a big shift?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I was happy to move into news. I always wanted to get, to get back into news. And so, I'm very thankful for the opportunity, the fact that, to be anchoring when we launched our 4:00 newscast. And so, there's nothing like being back home. So it's awesome. We have our family here. We have a ton of babies. It's good to be back home.
Yeah, how cool. How cool is that to just be able to come back? Not just to get into news, but to launch a brand new, hour-long show.
Oh, I mean, it was a whirlwind because we have the show starting up, and then we moved back, and my wife is pregnant with our twin boys, and so it was a lot of life happened when we came back, and so it's been amazing.
You forgot a part of that, Kyle. It's an Emmy award-winning show.
That's right. Yes, we won it in our first year. Yes, so.
That's so awesome.
Thank you for that, Davis.
I mean,
I got you.
He has an Emmy award. We have a podcast. I think
it's true.
He outweighs us
a little bit. A little bit.
All right. Thank you so much again for coming on our show, Mark.
Thank you.
To listen to this episode, you can head to wherever you get the rest of our Hawaii News Now podcast, and to watch, you can head over to our YouTube channel. Thank you. Aloha.